Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back here this week on another podcast for Alabama football. I want to thank Lance George, who's always in the studio producing this podcast and making it available for everyone online. Thank you for all our listeners out there who go out and like and share our podcast each and every week. It is great to be able to do this each week and share our thoughts from a unique perspective on Alabama football. Well, this week we get to talk about a great victory over the LSU Tigers and our upcoming game against Kentucky. But we're going to, in our first segment today, we're going to review the game against LSU. In our second segment, we're going to talk about the players of the game. In our third and final segment, we're going to preview the upcoming game against the Kentucky Wildcats. You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com. Well, back to our segment here on the podcast on Alabama football. Welcome back, everyone, for those who tune in to listen to us. In our first segment, we're going to take a look and review about the game against LSU. And what a game for Alabama fans. What a game. It was the type of game that we have been looking for Alabama to play. Maybe, I would say, up to this point, one of the most complete games they've played so far. LSU was a good team. I want to give credit where credit's due. Jaden Daniels was a good team. They were the number one offensive team in the nation. Putting up a lot of points, putting up a lot of yardage. And Jaden Daniels was a great quarterback. He did a great job, but we made some adjustments in that at halftime. At halftime, we had held our own offensively and did really good. Jalen Milroe had matched Jaden Daniels step for step in throwing the ball and running the ball. And I just feel like that at halftime it was tied 21-21. I was so proud of this Alabama football team going out there and being able to match offense for offense against LSU. And up to this point, we haven't been able to say that. A lot of Alabama fans were skittish, a little scared. A lot of commentators talking about, will Alabama be able to keep up with this LSU defense, or will offense, or will our defense have to stop them in order to keep us in the game? Well, at halftime, we stayed step for step. 21-21 going into the half, and Alabama had played a great offensive game in the first half. Defensively, it held our own. We hadn't done our best on defense, but our defense best was yet to come in that second half. So if you look at that first half of the game, what I loved to see was the play calling by Tommy Rees. I had given Tommy Rees a hard time on this podcast, but I love to give credit, like I said, where credit is due. And I think Tommy Rees called probably the best play calling that he has called all season long. He worked in a lot of the different running plays. He worked in a lot of different running plays for Jalen Milroe. He allowed Jalen Milroe to create plays for himself. I think early in the season, this week, we talked about Coach Saban and what he had said on last week's podcast about how Jalen needed to play within himself and learn to do some things. We heard later in the week where Coach Saban coached him to step up in the pocket so he can open up his vision downfield, help his left tackle, and be able to make some plays with his legs. And he did just that. But it wasn't just on the breakdown plays where he ran the ball. He did a good job of doing that, but he actually did great running the ball behind his blockers on called run plays and also pulling the ball on run pass options and running for touchdowns, and then sneaking the ball in across the line of scrimmage. You know, Jalen Milroe played a whale of a game in this game and did a good job. But I believe all that started with Tommy Rees in making his play calls, doing it better. So I give him credit for this game against LSU. The second credit I want to give is to the offensive line. The offensive line by far played their best game. All the talk leading up to this was how is our offensive line going to hold up against the defensive line of LSU, how physical they were, and the linebacker Perkins, who was going to be supposedly in the backfield all the time, sacking Jalen Milroe based on the way the offensive line performed in the past games. In this game, I give them credit. They showed up. They were more physical than the defensive line for LSU, And they neutralized Perkins in this game. And I think that was a combination of running at him, throwing at him, and blocking him when he was able to rush the quarterback. But I don't think they had but one sack in this game, so it was a tremendous play by the offensive line and pass protection. But not only that, they did a great job in run blocking as well, and setting up some great runs for the players on this team, including Jalen Milroe. So overall, the game, I think the offensive line played well. I think the offenses did a great job scoring the 42 points against this LSU defense, which we knew was a little suspect in the back end. And I think we did a good job of scoring that. But what has to be talked about is the defensive adjustments that were made at halftime. You know, I'm telling you, they had scored 21 points in the first half. They go down the opening drive of the second half, and they score again, making it 28-21. And from that point forward, LSU does not score another point. You realize what I'm saying here? A lot of folks say that taking Jaden Daniels out of the game is what cost them the game. Jaden Daniels was still in the game with a 28-21 cushion at the beginning series, after the beginning series of the second half. Let that sink in. They scored the last series before halftime and scored the first series after halftime. And that is what is usually a backbreaker, folks. That's what Alabama usually does to other teams. LSU did that to Alabama, but adjustments were made at halftime. Adjustments were made on the sideline as to what went wrong in that first series. And from that point forward, LSU doesn't score another point. Alabama goes up and keeps scoring and matches their total for the first half and outscores LSU in the second half and beats them 42-28. Yes, putting Daniels out of the game by what I consider to be a good tackle by Dallas Turner. Didn't appear to be targeting. He didn't launch. He didn't have crown of the helmet issues. It was his face mask against the other player's face mask. Yes, it was a penalty. Relinquish that anytime you touch the quarterback's head and with any part of your body. I believe it's going to be a penalty for roughing the passer. But I don't think it was a dirty play by any means. But it was a tremendous, powerful play that put Jaden Daniels out of the game. But I believe Alabama was already ahead at that time. I don't think that they were going to come back. And even if they did, the next thing that we need to talk about is Alabama's dominance over LSU's defense in the second half. Alabama's offensive line whipped the defensive line of LSU at the line of scrimmage in the second half. They beat them, and they weren't stopping us in that second half. We were able to run on them. We were able to throw on them. And we were able to take advantage of them. So I think, yes, Daniels went out, stopped them from coming back. But even with Daniels, I think Alabama still wins this game. At that point, they had a 2-touchdown lead. And offense was clicking on all cylinders. And I just think overall, a very good game plan, a very good execution of that game plan, and probably the best that this team has played. Is it their best? I don't think so. There's still room for improvement. I think the ceiling is still ahead. The Alabama can continue to play. And I think, as I've said before on this podcast, we play like this, we have a shot at winning the national championship. Well, welcome back to the second segment here on the DC Capstone Report. I want to thank Lance again for all the things he does to make this podcast possible each and every week. I want you to go out there and look at Lance's sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. He has got some great pictures from this LSU game up already. I've shared them on my Facebook page. We've shared it on the DC Capstone Report page. But go and look at those pictures. What a great environment for this LSU game. I've never seen a better environment in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Broke the decibel level when Terrion Arnold intercepted that pass, I think. Broke the decibel level for the loudness ever in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And all of those pictures that Lance took are on his sites at RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. So go out there. Want to help him. Lance is one of our sponsors. And when you go out and click his pages, he's definitely a great opportunity for you to get some great Alabama pictures. And our other sponsor that allows us to be with you each and every week is Karen Cottingham Realtor with the Williams Group at Keller Williams right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But she is your realtor all across the state. She can help you anywhere in the state of Alabama. Find that home, sell that home, whatever you need, she's the realtor for you. Again, that's Karen Cottingham, realtor of the Williams Group at Keller Williams at 205-887-4008. Or check out Karen's inventory at www.karen.thewilliamsgroupal.com for all your real estate needs. Karen Cottingham, 205-887-4008. Well, here on the second segment, we're going to take a look at our players of the game against LSU. Let's start on offense, and you've heard a little bit. I gave you a good clue as to who the offensive players of the game are going to be in this game, but number one has to be Jalen Milroe right off the top. Jalen Milroe played his best game as an Alabama player. He had 15 of 23 for 219 yards. He had a QBR rating of 96.4. He had 20 carries for 155 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, which is the record for Alabama quarterback in scoring touchdowns. We've had some great Alabama quarterbacks in recent years who are now playing in the NFL, but none of them have ever scored 4 touchdown rushing in a game, and Jalen Milroe broke that record. So he is one of my offensive players of the game on offense. Just a perfect game, complete game, threw the ball well, ran the ball well, scored well, had some great decision makings, and was a great leader, getting us in the right place at the right time. So Jalen Milroe is one of my offensive players of the game. My next offensive players of the game, I'm just going to say it, is the entire offensive line that played in this game. And there's too many of them to call by name, but you got to call out the starters. Caden Proctor at left tackle, Tyler Booker at left guard, Seth McLaughlin at center, Jaden Roberts at right guard, and J.C. Latham at right tackle. Those guys played the best game they played all year long. And I think it goes without saying. I picked them as my players of the game and then found out later this morning that the team, the coaches, picked their players of the game as the offensive line too. So they saw exactly what I saw and what everyone listening to this podcast saw. The offensive line finally step up and play the game to the best of their ability. It's taken them this long, I think, to get in game-ready shape. And what I mean by that is physically and mentally. I think they were in a good place mentally. They were in a good place physically, and they had opportunities in this game to show how they can run, how they can block when they're running the ball, how they can block and protect when they're passing the ball, and how they can just really impose their will on the other team. And they really did that. And I felt like in this game, they were the difference in this game for all the rushing yards that we were able to gobble up. Jalen Milroe had 155 yards. Jace McClellan had 63 yards. Roydale Williams had 56 yards. And Jam Miller had 17 yards. That's 288 yards rushing for an average of 6.3 rushes per carry. So that is a great stat for any offensive line. So my players of the game on this offensive player of the game were Jalen Milroe and the entire offensive line. Now on defense, our defense played great. Had a lot of people I could choose from, but I have to go with Dallas Turner and Terrion Arnold. They were a combination for what I call the turning point in this game, and that is when Dallas Turner rushed the quarterback, didn't get close enough to him, but saw the slant pass coming and tipped the ball, and Terrion Arnold intercepted the ball. I believe that's the turning point in this game. That got to stop, got to turn over, and put our offense back on the field. So I think they played great in this game. Of course, Dallas Turner had the big hit, the big sack. That was later called as a penalty, but he put Jaden Daniels out of the game. I think he had some other good plays in this game, 2 pass deflections. Terrion Arnold had a couple of pass breakups as well. And it was a great play by both of them in this game. So my defensive player of the game is Dallas Turner and Terrion Arnold. So to recap, my offensive player of the game, Jalen Milroe, and the offensive line. Defensive player of the game, Dallas Turner and Terrion Arnold. Well, welcome back to the DC Capstone Report. We are back here on the third segment, and that is to preview the upcoming game against the Kentucky Wildcats. Well, folks, great victory over LSU. We got to put that behind us and look forward. The next team on the schedule is Kentucky. We got to beat them to continue on our quest to win the West. And it's on the road. It's 11 o'clock game. Some sort of a trap game could happen here. So my number one key to the victory over the Kentucky Wildcats is we have to start fast. We got to start fast on offense. No lull, no time to become complacent, no time to be thinking about beating LSU. It's the time to be thinking about the next team on the schedule, beat Kentucky, to move on. We got to win every game here out if we're going to first make our goal to get into the SEC championship game. We got to do that first. We got to beat Kentucky. So first thing we got to do is start fast. Can't be complacent. Got to have our head in the game and play. Kentucky's 6-3. Have a very good defensive team. We're going to have to exploit where we can. And I think the next second key of the game is run the ball. The offensive line has to carry this momentum into the Kentucky game. Kentucky's got a great defensive line. We've got to impose our will and run the ball. Run the ball to set up play action passing downfield, which I think we can do that. If we run the ball, we'd start fast, we play action pass down the field. I believe we limit our mistakes and turnovers is the third thing. Can't have any mistakes, can't be in our head in this game. We got to be playing fast. If we do that, I think we come out of this great on offense. If we start fast, run the ball, play action pass, and limit our mistakes and turnovers. On defense, same thing. We got to start fast, carry the momentum into this game. Make sure that we stop the run. Kentucky loves to run the ball. They got a stable of running backs that can do that. Quarterback can run, and they're going to try to play action pass as well. So we got to stop the run. And I believe if we stop the run in this game and put them in passing situations, then we have to pressure the quarterback, keep him in the pocket, don't let him extend plays on third down, and get off the field. If we can do that in this game, I believe we will come a long way of getting that next notch that we need, and that is a victory over the Kentucky Wildcats. It's on the road. It's there in Commonwealth Stadium, in away. It's an away game. We got to win it. So we got to go in with our heads held high, not complacent, and excited to carry the momentum into this Kentucky game. And I think if we do that, then we're going to come away with a victory. I got Alabama winning this game on the road to at least clinch a tie for the West or with Ole Miss. I believe we can do that. And since we beat Ole Miss, it would essentially clinch the Western Division if we can beat Kentucky on the road. I think we come away, we have a good game, we're in the game, and we win this game going away. Alabama 38, Kentucky 17. Well, that's all this week on the DC Capstone Report. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure and go out there and like us on Facebook, share our podcast. Lance Shores, check out all of his sites, rolltidealabama.com and freelancepictures.com. And if you have any real estate needs, please seek out our sponsor, Karen Cottingham, at 205-887-4008 of the Williams Group at Keller Williams right here in Tuscaloosa. Well, that's it for this podcast. I hope you share it with all your friends and tune in next week. And until next week, this is DC signing off with a big Roll Tide.